Unexpected heroism, millionaire discovers inspiring fate of humble cleaner defending sick mother. In a Chicago hotel room high above the bustling streets, Jack, a wealthy hotel owner, never expected to find his world turned upside down. Despite his golden cufflinks and impeccably tailored suits, he felt a strange pull. The air was thick with anticipation, but nothing prepared him for the encounter he was about to have with Emma, a fiercely determined single mother, wiping off the lavish desks of his penthouse suite. Emma was a small figure against the opulence, scrubbing away not just grime, but the weight of her life. In her mid-30s, she fought against the odds every day, cleaning rooms while holding on to the hope that her ailing mother would get the care she needed. Each sweep of her cloth was a prayer, every smile a subtle defiance of her relentless challenges. Today, though, as she polished the shiny surfaces, her heart sank at the thought of an eviction notice waiting for her at home. Just another day, right? She mumbled to herself, trying to suppress the weight pressing down on her chest. Her mother's laugh echoed in her mind, a fleeting sound she clung to as the rest of her world threatened to fall apart. Jack, witnessing her quiet struggle firsthand, felt something shift inside him. The glimmer of his wealth dimmed as he watched Emma, so brave yet burdened. "Can I help?" he blurted, not quite knowing why the words tumbled out. She paused, a hint of surprise crossing her features, but the smile returned as she said, "Just doing my job, sir. Everyone has their battles, right?" In that moment, Jack began to see the everyday struggles of the people around him. It wasn't just Emma cleaning his suite, it was a community working tirelessly, battling poverty, and hoping for brighter tomorrows. With each brief conversation, he learned about her food drives and the endless tasks she juggled. "We do what we can," she said, her eyes shining. As Jack continued to stay in his own hotel, he couldn't shake Emma's words. Before he knew it, his eyes were open to the vast inequalities around him. He felt something ignite, a sense of obligation, perhaps indignation, at the disparities faced by hardworking people like Emma. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As Emma faced the unexpected eviction and the heartbreaking decision it forced upon her, Jack sat alone in his luxurious penthouse, haunted by the contrast of their lives. He realized that her strength could not bear the weight forever and that he could be a catalyst for change. The impending scrutiny of his business forced him to confront his own privileges, the gaping divide between their worlds. Standing at his balcony, overlooking the vibrant, yet struggling neighborhood, he felt the urgency to act. Would he step up for Emma and embrace the community, or retreat into the safety of his privilege? He knew the crowd would gather, waiting for him to rise to the challenge. With tension skyrocketing, an unexpected voice broke through the silence, leaving Jack to ponder: was it possible that true heroism could emerge from their unlikely friendship, or were the barriers of wealth just too high to climb? Jack could feel the walls of his penthouse closing in on him. It was almost suffocating. He turned away from the sprawling cityscape, its lights twinkling like stars, but feeling, at that moment, distant and disconnected. Each light represented lives, stories, struggles not unlike Emma's. With her image etched in his mind, he couldn't just walk away, not when so many were fighting for a chance at a better tomorrow. Determined, he stepped inside and reached for his phone. His fingers trembled on the screen as he typed. "What can I do to help?" A simple message. But behind it was a storm of thoughts. He knew that Emma needed immediate help, and if anyone could bridge their worlds, it had to be him. After hitting send, Jack paced the room, glancing out the window every now and then as if expecting her to appear. Minutes felt like hours until his phone buzzed. It was a response. "You can't save everyone," she wrote, followed by a sad smiley emoji. "But thank you. Just doing what I can." Frustration bubbled within him. Could she really not see how much potential lay in helping one another? What if he could leverage his resources for change? Gathering some of his courage, he typed back, "I mean it, Emma. Let us meet." Minutes later, she agreed. Scheduled for the next day, it was as if the air had shifted. Jack felt a surge of energy, a hope he hadn't felt in months. He started brainstorming ideas. Together, they could develop initiatives for the community. It felt thrilling to think he might actually spark something meaningful. The next day was cloudy. A perfect Chicago day where the skies mirrored the weight on both of their shoulders. Jack arrived a few minutes early to the cafe where they agreed to meet. He scanned the room nervously. Would she see him as just another wealthy guy trying to atone for his privilege? Or could he prove to her that he genuinely cared? When Emma arrived, she looked worn but poised. The smile was still there, a flicker of light in her tired eyes. Her hair was tied back, a work uniform replacing the neat clothes she wore to the hotel. Jack stood up, feeling an unexpected warmth wash over him as they sat down. "Thanks for coming," he started, trying to sound composed. Emma nodded. "Thanks for inviting me. I honestly didn't expect you to call." "I want to help," Jack said before he could second-guess himself. "I've been thinking about your community, about what you said. What if we create a program? Something that provides support not just for people like you, but for everyone struggling?" For a moment, Emma hesitated, her brow furrowed in cautious optimism. "What exactly do you have in mind?" Jack felt the entire weight of the moment crushing down. "We could set up food drives, job training, maybe even fund medical help for those in need." Her eyes widened, and Jack could see she was trying to process his words. Hope flickered at the edge of her disbelief. "You realize that kind of project, it's huge, right?" "I do," he confessed, his heart racing. "But together, I believe we can make it happen." As they began to outline ideas, empowerment filled the space between them, their differences momentarily forgotten. It was an exhilarating feeling, but doubt lingered like the clouds outside. Could he truly make a difference? Just as they were deep into their conversation, tension cracked at the cafe door as two loud figures walked in, one of them holding a flyer that made Jack's stomach drop. "Eviction notice." The man yelled, turning heads, and in that instant, both Emma and Jack knew the fight was far from over. Emma paled, her eyes darting. Jack's heart raced again, not just for her but for the risk he was willing to take. The moment of truth loomed. Should he voice his intentions now, or wait for the storm to pass? "Emma," he said, gripping the table between them, "let us not let this happen." Her gaze met his with a mixture of urgency and fear. Time stood still as their eyes locked, both realizing this was just the beginning of a battle neither could face alone. Jack took a deep breath. The cafe felt smaller now, the walls closing in with the added weight of impending struggle. The man with the eviction notice stood confidently at the entrance, nearly radiating aggression. The commotion around them lowered into a murmur, but the tension in the air wrapped Jack and Emma in a bubble, isolating them from the rest of the world. "Emma, what do we do?" The urgency clutched at his throat. He wasn't sure if he was asking for a plan or just trying to find some kind of reassurance. He could see the fight in her eyes, battling against the surge of hopelessness. "We have to help them," Emma whispered back, her voice firm but shaky. "They can't just take this away from her. Not when she is sick." The words cut through the chaos, igniting something inside Jack. He could suddenly see the bigger picture. Their conversation about hope and assistance was no longer abstract. It was a reality that needed action now. The glint of determination replaced the fear in Emma's eyes, and it mirrored back to him. "Okay," he said, scanning the cafe for allies. At a table nearby, a group of concerned patrons had started whispering amongst themselves, but he needed more than just whispers, they needed support. "Let us take a stand." Jack nodded towards the entrance. "Follow my lead." He could feel the adrenaline surging through him as he stood, his heart pounding a rapid tattoo against his ribs. He walked over to the man holding the notice, each step a challenge against the suffocating atmosphere. "Excuse me," Jack said, raising his voice above the din. The man turned, the air thick with disbelief at this well-dressed interloper interrupting his show. "You can't just go around doing this to people. They deserve dignity, not threats." The group at the nearby table perked up, exchanging glances of intrigue and motivation. Could this be the moment where something shifted? The man's sneer faltered slightly. "And who are you supposed to be? Just another rich guy thinking he can save the day?" Jack met his glare head-on. "No, I'm just a guy who cares. I want to help this woman and her family. What can we do to find a better solution?" The challenge hung in the air, and Jack felt Emma's presence solidifying at his side. It was no longer just his voice cutting through the atmosphere, now, it was theirs. "Let us talk," Emma said, stepping forward, emboldened. "You can't just stand there and decide someone's fate without hearing their story. That's not right." The man hesitated, shifting his weight. The murmurs from those in the cafe grew louder, and Jack could feel the momentum building. From behind them, a voice joined in, "This is a community. We stand together or fall apart." It was one of the patrons, an elderly woman with kind eyes. Jack glanced at Emma and saw her smile, just enough to send a surge of hope through him. They were rallying, gathering voices against oppression. The man stood taller, challenged, but he couldn't back down now. As more people spoke up, Jack felt himself igniting with passion, but another part of him trembled. Could this make a real difference? The atmosphere shifted, charged with collective energy. Jack realized this wasn't just a fight for one family, it was a fight for everyone who felt powerless. Emma's voice rose above the din, "Together, we can make sure no one loses their home, not while we're here." The challenge had been thrown, and it echoed in Jack's chest. In that moment, Jack found the question that had been hanging in the air: was he ready to step into the role of leader, to not only talk about change but ignite it? As the eviction man's expression soured and the crowd's energy surged, the reality dawned on him: change might happen, but it would only come at a cost. Were they prepared for what lay ahead? The air shimmered with possibility, but the underlying risk was palpable. It was only the beginning, but for Jack and Emma, it felt like the start of something profoundly life-changing. Jack could feel his heart racing, each beat echoing in his ears as the crowd around him began to swell with resolve. The elderly woman's words hung in the air, a beacon drawing others into the fray. He glanced back at Emma, her features glowing with a fierce determination that he had never seen before. It was intoxicating, electrifying, and it fueled his own courage. "Look," he said, directing his voice toward the man with the eviction notice. "You might think you're just doing your job, but these are people's lives you're playing with. What if this was someone in your family?" The line of patrons behind him creaked forward, their murmurs transforming into shouts of agreement. The man, momentarily taken aback, stood rigid as Jack continued. "This isn't just about a piece of paper. It's about a community standing together, a home. Don't you see that?" The tension snapped like a tightened string, and for a brief moment, the man's bravado wavered, confusion flickering across his face. Emma took this small crack in his exterior as an invitation to push forward. "Can we please just talk this through? She's sick. She needs time and support, not a notice to leave." A few more voices joined in, each one a thread weaving a tapestry of solidarity. Their sincerity poured out, and the cafe, once filled with ambient noise, now reverberated with the rhythm of collective humanity. Jack observed the man closely. He could see his hands clenching and unclenching, the subtle signs of an internal battle. "We're just asking for a chance to find a better way," he insisted. "No one has to lose here." The man hesitated, glancing at the crowd gathered before him. The old woman who had first stepped up spoke again. "It's easy to forget that we're all just trying to survive. Wouldn't you want that same compassion if the roles were reversed?" As they stood together, a mix of hope and determination threaded through the air. Jack could feel the connection between these strangers, something magical that only moments like this could spark. It was powerful, a flame igniting against indifference. And then there it was, a flicker of defeat beneath the man's bravado. He stammered, "I am just following the rules." The words were weaker now, almost pleading. "Rules can be bent," Jack said, taking a step closer. "We just want a conversation. We deserve to hear that story, to understand. That's all we're asking for." With each heartbeat, Jack felt his grip on the situation tightening. There was something about standing with Emma, surrounded by voices that seemed to lift him higher. In that moment, Jack realized this fight extended beyond just one eviction notice. It was about the essence of community, about understanding the stories behind the faces they passed daily. He saw the kind of man he could be, not defined by his wealth, but by how he could uplift others. The man at the entrance took a deep breath, visibly weighing his options. "Fine. Let us talk." Cheers erupted from the group, and Jack smiled at Emma, exhilaration coursing through him. It was a small victory, but it was theirs. But just as the conversation was about to unfold, a loud rattle at the cafe door interrupted the atmosphere. Another man, fierce-looking and even more intimidating than the first, burst in. His presence sent a shudder through the crowd. "Get away from him!" he shouted, glaring at Jack. "You're making this worse." Jack's heart sank. The winds of coalition they had just built could be torn apart in an instant. As the energy shifted again, thoughts raced through Jack's mind. They were in deeper than he ever anticipated. Did they have what it took to stand against this new foe? The stakes had risen. In an unseen battle, new challenges loomed ahead, and the real fight was only just beginning. What would it cost to protect what they had fought for? The tension in the cafe crackled like static electricity, every pair of eyes fixed on this new intruder. Jack felt every ounce of bravado seep from his body as fear gripped his heart. The imposing man stood tall, muscles coiling under a tight black shirt. He radiated hostility, a stark contrast to the camaraderie that had just blossomed moments before. "Who the hell do you think you are?" The man barked at Jack, his voice a low growl that cut through the murmurs like a knife. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, a wave of uncertainty washing over them. Jack could sense the collective inhale as everyone pinned their hope on him once more. He glanced at Emma, her eyes wide but unwavering. She was ready to fight, and that sparked a flicker of courage deep within him. "We're just having a conversation," Jack said, every bit of bravado he could muster feeding his voice. "This isn't about you or me. It's about that woman and her home." The intimidating man stepped closer, fists clenched at his sides. "You think you can just interfere? She's breaking the law. This is my job, and I won't let a bunch of nobodies ruin that." Each word dripped with venom, and Jack could feel the crowd's spirit begin to unravel. But he couldn't let that happen. Not now, not after all they had achieved together. "We're not nobodies. We're neighbors. Friends. We care about each other," Jack declared, his voice rising to match the man's anger. "These people deserve to be heard, not thrown out like trash." In the back, the elderly woman gripped her cane tighter, whispering words of encouragement to those around her, a reminder that they were stronger together. Her spirit fed the fire in Jack's chest, and he took a step forward, his heart beating in tandem with the crowd behind him. "Think about it," Emma interjected, her voice clear and direct. "What if that was your mother? What if you were in her shoes? Don't we all deserve a little compassion?" The new man hesitated, his intensity momentarily faltering as those words resonated in the hushed cafe. Jack saw the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, a brief reminder of humanity amidst the chaos. But then a cruel smile twisted across his lips. "Compassion?" he sneered. "You think that matters in this world? Wake up. This life is about survival of the fittest." Jack felt a surge of anger mixed with deep sadness. He understood that harsh truth, had faced it many times, his own life's privileges often shadowing others' struggles. But at that moment, he couldn't let that darkness consume him. It should be about lifting others up, he shouted, holding his ground. If we can't help each other, then what are we really fighting for? The crowd stirred, a restless energy humming between them, a shared understanding that began to form. One by one, people started to rally behind him. This is our community. Someone shouted from the back. Jack turned, fueled by the voices rising around him, and with each passing second, he felt their collective strength deepen. Even the first man, still shaken by the confrontation, gestured slightly backward, glancing nervously at his companion. Jack could see that the resolve was wavering, and their slight hesitation offered a glimmer of hope, but then the fierce man lunged forward, his anger regaining momentum. Enough of this. Get out of my way. Jack's heart pounded loudly. They were on the edge of something profound, and one misstep could shatter everything. No. He yelled, stepping forward again, ready to defend what they had built. This fight is for everyone. Are you willing to stand with us, or will you just be another faceless enforcer? As the tension thickened, all eyes turned toward the first man, searching for his response. Would he stand with the community or against it? The air grew heavy, and Jack held his breath, waiting for the answer that could change everything. But, there he was, one burning question lingering in the silence: would unity conquer fear, or would their brave stand crumble under pressure? The room was on the brink, a tight coil of anticipation and dread. Everyone held their breath, their hopes fluttering in the charged atmosphere. Jack felt a bead of sweat trickle down his back. This was the moment that could either shatter or strengthen them all. With a low growl, the fierce man narrowed his eyes, assessing the crowd before him. You think shouting louder will change anything? He sneered. Jack's heart raced as he prepared himself for the worst, his mind racing with thoughts of what losing this battle might mean not just for them, but for the community they'd built, the lives intertwined in a fragile tapestry of trust. But then a soft voice broke through the clamor, drawing every eye. You're wrong, came the voice of an older man named Harold, a usually quiet figure who always kept to the shadows. You're not alone, we're all part of this together. He stepped forward, an unlikely figure of wisdom, a gentle strength nestled in his weathered hands. We stand here today because we care about each other. Not just for one woman, but for everyone fighting for a place in this world. The fierce man hesitated, caught off guard by the shift in tone. Jack felt an ember of possibility spark within him. If even the most reticent could find their courage, perhaps it was enough to sway this man. Look at us, Emma added, her voice gaining momentum, carried by the weight of the moment. You've seen our faces, heard our stories. We're not just names on a piece of paper to you. We're here, fighting for what's right. This is about our lives. Her eyes shone, pleading for compassion in a world so devoid of it. The man's face twisted in confusion, still wrestling with the implication of their words. He glanced at his companion, a hint of uncertainty creeping back into his tough demeanor. In that fleeting moment, Jack saw doubt flickering into the man's steely gaze, as if he was grappling with questions he'd long buried beneath layers of indifference. Is this what you want? Jack pressed, stepping closer, his heart pounding in cadence with every word. To be remembered as someone who turned his back on those who needed help. You're more than just this job, you have the choice to make a difference. You have the power to be more. A heavy silence hung in the air, thick enough to cut through. The man's chest rose and fell, the conflict evident in the tightening of his jaw and the flexing of his fists. The entire cafe watched, tension twisting like a taut rope ready to snap. Then, as if shaken from a trance, he took one cautious step back. I don't know. It's complicated. Jack seized that glimmer of hope, increasing the pressure on his own heart. It always is. But we're here, standing together, hoping that somewhere beneath it all, you still have that spark of humanity left. Don't let this be your only legacy. The man staggered back again, the weight of their solidarity pushing down on him, challenging him to change. Jack felt the crowd surge with renewed strength, their voices building like a powerful wave. Please, someone shouted, stand with us. Jack held on to his gaze, unwilling to break his connection. The hope swirling in the air was palpable, a shared breath of desperation mixed with possibility. Then, a murmuring began to ripple through the crowd, a collection of voices intertwining in agreement, a recognition of shared struggle. If he could rise, perhaps they all could, but would that be enough to secure their victory? Just then, a commotion erupted from the café's back entrance. A woman rushed in, breathless and wide-eyed. "You've got to see this. It's happening outside." Before Jack could fully process her words, the fierce man's expression shifted once more, caught between curiosity and a hard resolve. What awaited them beyond those doors? What revelation could shake the very foundations of their struggle? Jack's heart raced again, a new wave of urgency crashing over him. This was not over. The fight was escalating, and the final act was just beginning. The crowd shifted nervously, eyes darting to the entrance as the woman caught her breath. Jack felt a rush of adrenaline, his stomach tightening with both anticipation and fear. What could possibly be happening outside that could amplify their struggle? "What's going on?" Someone called out, their tone laced with urgency. The woman took a step forward, her hands trembling slightly. "There's a gathering of protest. People are bringing signs," and her voice wavered, emotions bubbling to the surface. "They're marching for Gloria. They're fighting for her right to stay." A collective gasp echoed throughout the café. Jack could see it in the faces around him. The spark of hope ignited once more. It was like a match hitting tinder, the flames of conviction roaring back to life. "Look!" The woman pointed toward the glass door. Shadows began to coalesce outside, figures of people moving in solidarity. Bright-colored signs waved through the air, emblazoned with slogans demanding justice, compassion, action. Jack's heart soared. "Together, we can join them," Emma said, glancing at Jack, her eyes wide with determination. "This is our chance." The fierce man's steely mask cracked further, his gaze drifting to the scene unfolding just beyond that door. Jack stepped closer, feeling the palpable emotion pouring from the crowd tightening in around them. "You see? They care. It's not just about one person, it's about all of us." "Maybe I could," the fierce man murmured, his voice barely audible over the growing clamor outside. Jack seized the moment. "No more maybe. Stand with us. We're all here for each other. You can be part of something greater, make a real impact." The words tumbled out, vibrant and alive, wrapping around the fierce man like a warm embrace. He hesitated again, his brow furrowed in deep thought. Jack felt both excitement and fear. Would this man finally step into the light, or retreat into the shadows once more? Suddenly, with a determined shake of his head, the man stepped forward. "All right," he shouted, his voice carrying above the din. "Let us go. Let us show them we won't back down." Cheers erupted from the crowd, joy mixing with relief as they surged toward the door as one. Outside, the sun was shining brightly now, illuminating determined faces and fluttering signs. Jack felt the energy swirl around them, vibrant with renewed purpose. As they burst into the space, joining the thrumming heart of the protest, the sheer force of unity wrapped around him like a cloak. But then, just as the wave of excitement peaked, the fierce man's companion stepped back, watching with an unreadable expression. Jack could sense something was off, a tension he couldn't quite place. "Wait," someone shouted. "What's happening over there?" Jack turned his gaze toward a small commotion forming at the edge of the crowd. Voices raised in urgency, the atmosphere shifting from hope to uncertainty. It was as if a storm cloud had suddenly gathered over their moment of clarity. "What is it?" Jack asked, his throat tightening. "I don't know," Emma murmured, her face pale, eyes fixed intently on the chaos gathering. "But it doesn't look good. What were they about to walk into? What challenge could derail the fragile hope they built?" Jack's heart raced as he felt the winds shift. A new test loomed ahead, tempting to break their resolve. Could they face this storm together? Or would it be the end of everything they had fought for? Jack's throat felt dry as he peered through the gathering crowd. Excited chatter turned into sharp sounds of conflict at the edge, growing louder and more frantic. He exchanged a glance with Emma, and they both knew they had to act. This was their moment to defend what they believed in, to show the world they wouldn't back down. "Stick together!" Jack shouted, rallying the group around him. People nodded, locking eyes, their determination translating into synchronized footsteps as they edged closer to the source of the commotion. As they drew nearer, details of the chaos unfurled. A small group of individuals, wearing sharp suits and grim expressions, argued with protesters who clamored fiercely for Gloria. The tension was thick, almost suffocating. "What do they think they're doing?" Jack muttered to Emma, feeling a sudden surge of protective instinct. Emma squinted towards the front lines. "They're trying to intimidate the crowd," she replied, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "We can't let them." The fierce man, now fully warmed to the cause, stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Let us show them what we're made of," he called out, sparks of courage illuminating his face. Jack felt a swell of pride, that resilient fire within them all. "No one is backing down. Not today," he roared, raising his arm as if it could touch the sky. The crowd responded with a unified cheer, sounds of hope mixing with the burgeoning clash at the forefront. They pushed forward, a wave of bodies and voices, challenging the authority before them. The sun, now setting, cast a golden hue over the scene, igniting their spirits even further. The unmistakable figure of Gloria's mother burst through the crowd, her tear-stained face painted with defiance. "It's not just about me," she shouted, her voice wavering but firm. "It's about our right to dream, to belong." Those words wrapped around Jack like a warm blanket. Another wave of determination flooded through him. How could someone so battered remain so strong? Suddenly, the men in suits began shoving signs out of the way, trampling the very hopes represented by the words on cardboard. Jack felt rage bubble inside him. "Keep pushing forward," he urged, grasping Emma's hand with fierce grip as they stepped into the ruckus. He felt the pressure of the crowd around him like a pulse, intimidating yet brimming with solidarity. That instant, a voice rang out, slicing through the growing noise. "You have to understand. It's more than a protest." An older man stood on a makeshift platform, his words commanding attention. "This isn't just for Gloria. It's for every one of us who has battled against the odds. We must be louder than the fear they use to silence us." A hush fell over the crowd, everyone absorbing the weight of his declaration. The fierce man raised his chin and stepped alongside Jack, as if ready to lead the charge, but Jack's heart raced at the sudden shift. Behind them, the opposing group had started closing in, their intentions unreadable yet menacing. In the eye of this escalating storm, Jack felt fear creeping back in. Just as he edged forward to speak, he realized they were at the brink of something powerful, yet teetering precariously on the edge of chaos. Could they stand firm against this challenge, or was the tide about to turn, bringing despair instead of hope? With his pulse racing, Jack wondered who would rally them one more time when it mattered most. Jack's heart pounded in his chest as the crowd shifted around him. He felt the heat of urgency rising, threatening to overtake the spark of courage ignited moments ago. The cheers faded, leaving an edge of uncertainty in their wake. The older man's words still echoed in his mind, a battle cry of resistance, but would it be enough? He stood tall, determined to be a steadfast leader in their moment of need. "We fight for each other. For every dream that's been silenced." Jack shouted, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Hope flickered in the eyes around him, and he sensed that they clung to his resolve. Just as the crowd began to draw strength from his words, the sharp-suited men advanced, shoulders squared, exuding an aura of intimidation. Jack's grip on Emma's hand tightened. He could feel her pulse racing alongside his, a reminder that they weren't alone in this fight. "Let them come," the fierce man shouted, moving closer to the front. Jack felt a rush of energy at his side, a makeshift guard forming, ready to protect the heart of the crowd. "We can't let them scare us into silence." As the men in suits pushed closer, Jack could see their expressions morph into calculated arrogance. They were certainly not here to listen. The tension grew heavier, like a brewing storm. The world outside faded. It was just them, this crowd united by a shared dream. Then a girl, perhaps no older than 12, stepped forward. Her small figure, despite the fear in her eyes, radiated defiance. "If you want to silence us, you'll have to do better," she shouted, shaking her fist. Jack felt his breath hitch. The innocence of her voice contrasted sharply with the oppressive reality they faced. But there was something powerful about her courage, a reminder that even the smallest among them could be a beacon against darkness. Their small stand was swiftly met with scornful laughter from the men, their disdain palpable. But that laughter faltered as more voices rose in support. The crowd stood tall behind the girl, stepping forward with newfound strength, creating a formidable wall of humanity. "You will not trample on our hopes," someone shouted from the back, and the phrase rippled through the throng, igniting a fierce fire in their hearts. Jack felt tears prick at his eyes. This was collective defiance rising against oppression, and then, like a rush of wild wind, the energy morphed again. "For Gloria!" they yelled, the name resonating through the crowd like a chant of warriors marching into battle. The sea of humanity surged forward, rallying behind the idea of unity in a fight that transcended even the individual struggles. As the men in suits faltered, taken aback by the unexpected surge of courage, Jack saw an opening. "Now! This is our time," he yelled, egging them forward. The emotion flooding through him was both terrifying and exhilarating. But just as they pushed forward, Jack caught sight of a flash of light from behind the crowd. It flickered and dulled, a signal. In that moment of uncertainty, what if reinforcements were coming? Or were they just a distraction? Jack's heart raced. "Stand firm!" he cried, holding Emma's gaze. The crowd moved, driven by instinct, but a deep-seated fear settled. Was this the moment they had prepared for, or just another ploy to break them? With breaths held tight, Jack didn't know what would come next, but the urgency to act, to protect, burned deeper than ever. "What if we lose everything today?" he thought, looking around him, seeking hope anchored in the faces that had come alive with purpose. Just then, from the distance, a rumble echoed. It was closing in. Jack's heart skipped. Was it reinforcements or the sound of disappointment? And in that very moment, the question hit him hard: would they rise together or fall apart? As the rumble grew louder, Jack felt the ground of his resolve shifting. The faces around him shimmered with a mix of fear and defiance, each one reflecting a shared determination. But uncertainty gnawed at him. Would they truly face whatever was coming? "Stay strong!" he shouted earnestly, his voice breaking through the storm of emotions swirling around them. "Together, we're unstoppable!" The crowd responded with a roar, a wave of hope surging through their ranks, but as the noise of footsteps drew nearer, his stomach knotted tighter. He could feel Emma's grip on his hand, warm and encouraging, grounding him in the chaos. A moment later, the source of the sound came into view. A sea of community members emerged, brandishing colorful signs, their faces reflecting every emotion from anger to love, determination blazing in their eyes. "We support Gloria!" they shouted, spilling forth from the surrounding streets like a river breaking free from its dam. Jack's heart swelled. There were families, co-workers, friends who had heard about the struggle and chosen to come together. They stood shoulder to shoulder, embodied in a revolution of spirit. He turned to Emma, her face radiating pride mixed with awe, mirroring the hope blossoming in his chest. "Look," he whispered, even as excitement surged from the rallying community around them. The fierce man from before stood awestruck, absorbing the collective spirit crashing over them like an unstoppable wave. He took a hesitant step forward, as if propelled by the emotions spiraling around him, urged by a desire to belong. "We can't let them win!" he roared, suddenly a warrior among warriors. The energy shifted, the once menacing suits now dwarfed in the face of a spirited crowd. Sensing the shift in the air, the opposing figures faltered, the arrogance draining from their faces while apprehension crept in. You can't take away their homes. Jack shouted, rallying alongside Emma and the assembled crowd. Today is the day we stand as one and reject injustice. As their voices melded together, a unified roar erupted, drowning out any remaining doubts. Suddenly, Jack saw a familiar face push through the throng. It was Gloria's mother, strong and fierce even amidst her despair. She seized the moment, stepping to the forefront, her voice steady and commanding. Gloria is not just a name, she is my daughter, our daughter. Her desperation mixed with fierce determination tugged at the hearts of everyone present. The crowd buzzed with energy, echoing her sentiment. For Gloria! For Gloria! They cried, each chant drowning out the rising apprehension among the suits. The fierce man's companion stepped back, visibly rattled by the unresolved strength radiating from the community. Jack felt a spark of hope ignite wider and brighter than ever. Stand with us. Emma encouraged, her voice breaking the last threads of indecision from the opposing figures. We are a community. When one falls, we all do. Together, we fight for each and every one of us. Jack could hardly believe what he was seeing. The first man began to relent, the hardened walls of indifference beginning to crack under the pressure of humanity's united front. Just then, the door behind the suits swung open, and the hotel manager, Jack's former ally, appeared. The sight elicited a sudden hush, confusion lacing the air. What is going on here? He asked, disbelief etched across his face. Jack couldn't let this slip away. We're standing up against injustice. He stepped forward, urgency flowing through him. Today, we'll show what it means to be truly united. Stand by us. The hotel manager looked between Jack, Emma, and the assembled crowd, the gravity of this moment sinking in. A community shouldn't be divided by wealth, he finally spoke, a waver of understanding tracing through his voice. Maybe it's time we listen to their stories. As if drawn in by the empathy blooming in the atmosphere, the fierce man slowly started to back away, the sound of collective chanting washing over him like a wave of realization. Jack felt the spark of triumph ignite within him. Change is possible if we stand together. He declared, allowing the energy coming from the group to sweep him forward, culminating in a surge of strength against systemic hardship. The chant about Gloria echoed louder than ever, mesmerizing everyone present, a powerful reminder that they would not back down. In that moment, hope rippled through the crowd. Every face lightened, every spirit soared. Each person once doubtful, now captivated by the prospect of change. The fear that had loomed earlier wasn't gone, but it had transformed into something new: courage. Jack's heart swelled, and he turned to Emma, her lively eyes sparkling brighter than the sun setting behind them. Together, they had mobilized, ignited the kindling of community spirit where once there had been fear. With compassion as their armor, they had risen together. They stood at the edge of something monumental, a bridge built on shared resilience, and as they headed towards the uncertainty of tomorrow, Jack knew they wouldn't just fight for one person. This newfound family would keep fighting for every voice that struggled to rise above the silence of oppression. Moments like this could change hearts, change lives. And the fire they had kindled today would burn bright, a beacon of unity for those yet to join the cause. As they crossed the line of resistance, emboldened by each other, Jack understood. Sometimes, the most unexpected heroism comes not from those with power, but from the quiet determination of a community ready to stand together. If we can rise for one, we can rise for many. And this fight had just begun. Now I need you to take action. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories like this. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment with your feelings about this inspiring journey and what it means to you. Let us connect. And don't wait not even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. The world needs to know that together we can change lives.